Hello, welcome. So welcome to our presentation on Azure Back to School. So we're doing a session on GitHub Admin Security Managed Identity, the keys to secure your Azure DevOps workflow. So it's myself and my co-speaker, Jake Walsh.
Thanks, Nick. So yeah, just a brief agenda here, really. We're going to cover off why use GitHub Advanced Security with Azure DevOps. We'll cover managed identity support within Azure DevOps. We'll talk about benefits, key features. We'll also go through getting started, some links and resources to share, a few top tips just for securing, managing and securing identities in Azure DevOps, and then just a brief conclusion, some overview information and some resources to share. Just to call out, the views and opinions are our own. Please do check documentation before deployment. Over to you, Nick.
So this event wouldn't happen without the organizer of the event. So I get back to school. So we want to say huge thank you to Dwayne and Derek for putting this massive community event together. So you can to learn more about events, you can find it through the website, those two links, and just stay up to date. You got lots of amazing sessions coming in a few months in September. So stay tuned.
Yeah, just a huge thank you. There's some great sessions on there. Looking forward to watching lots of those myself.
So who am I? So I'm currently a platform engineer working for Beccanos, that's based in Belfast. So infrastructure code focuses, especially Microsoft Azure. And in my spare times, I enjoy like watching movies, spending time with friends and family. And I'm quite a blogger as well. So I have my blog as well. So I'm quite new in the community because I'm a new speaker and I enjoy learning about new technology. So I'm on social media, so you can find my Linktree profiles here. And I'm currently the organizer for the new user group, Azure Community FTS. So check it out.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jake Walsh. Currently a senior solution architect. I work for CDW in the UK. Lucky enough to be an MVP, Microsoft MVP, HashiCorp ambassador, and Citrix CTA. Spare time, I enjoy running. Quite a keen aviation enthusiast. Blog as well, jakewalsh.co.uk, and I'm on Twitter, GitHub. Just search for Jake Walsh 90. You'll find me on there. Cool. Over to you, Nick.
So to get started in about the advanced security, GitHub Advanced Security, we wanted to give you some information about the software development lifecycle. So this can act like a framework in order to catch any like the top 10 OS like vulnerabilities that could be in your code or stuff. So you always want to just keep like complete each phrases before, so you can catch the vulnerability by shifting left. So you want to just go. It will show you the integration, like for the integration, continued integration, for continued development. You always want to just slowly scan it for vulnerability again. So yeah, so check the links out, and it will give you more information about it.
We will share some of these links at the end, but that is a really awesome Microsoft build session that's well worth a watch.
Yeah.
So just thinking about why would we use GitHub Advanced Security with Azure DevOps? What are the key benefits this brings? So it actually brings the following features to your repos and pipelines. So feature one is secret scanning. So allowing detection of secrets. That's things like keys, tokens, etc., that are within those repositories. So really important to understand. Actually there's something in this repository that shouldn't be before it goes anywhere else. Perhaps it gets pushed to an application or something like that. Also secret scanning from a code push perspective. So understanding if that push is going to expose a particular secret. Another really useful aspect there. Dependency scanning as well, so allowing you to check the impact of changes when merging a pull request. So understanding this pull request will break something or damage one of these dependencies or cause something to stop working. Again, really useful when you're in that development life cycle. And code scanning as well. I mean, most of my background is infrastructure as code, so code scanning to check for vulnerabilities has been very useful for me. Understanding and mitigating those vulnerabilities before code goes into an application or production or gets pushed to particular cloud platform like Microsoft Azure, for example. So actually allowing you to find and resolve those vulnerabilities is really important. Over to you, Nick.
So we want to give you an important note. So currently the GitHub Advanced Security is currently in public preview. So we just want to let you know before you go ahead. So to access the public preview, you can click on that link. So it's not out in GA yet. So hopefully by this year, it'll be out in GA.
We will share these links at the end as well for everyone. So just thinking about managed identity support for Azure DevOps, obviously a little bit text heavy this slide, but just important to cover off some of these aspects. So managed identities are an Entra ID, formerly obviously Azure AD feature, that provides identities for Azure resources. They're managed by Entra ID, and that includes things like credential management, rotation, and really for those two reasons, they're a really good choice because they remove that usage of static credentials and obviously centralize those credentials as well. So, you know, gone are the days when perhaps you had a static credential that you had to refer to or use. That can now be centrally managed using a managed identity. They also provide an alternative to a personal access token, so a PAT, within Azure DevOps. You know, whilst PATs are useful and they have their place, you know, it's obviously challenging if it's leaked. You know, if it's leaked, it requires revoking, might cause problems with the deployment. And they're also linked to a single user. So if someone leaves an organization, it's going to cause problems and challenges. Managed identities provide that secure alternative to PATs. That features, again, currently in public preview, and obviously for organizations that are connected to Entra ID, Azure AD, formerly known as. Again, another link that explains that, and I'll go through those resources at the end, but hopefully that just gives you an overview of the managed identity support. Nick?
So we want to give you there's two options that in managed identity. There's system assigned and there is user assigned. So the system assigned managed identity allow you to enable the identity on the service itself, while the managed user assigned identity allow you to create standalone Azure resources for assigned to the user identity they give it to. And then you can also give the permission for each of the identity, the managed system assigned or the user identity. So if you click on the bottom of the link, you can see how you can get started with using managed identity in Azure portal.
Thanks, Nick. So obviously we made a bit of a statement at the start, and the title of our presentation was, you know, GitHub Advanced Security and Managed Identities were the key to a secure Azure DevOps workflow. And this slide is just to sort of demonstrate why. So GitHub Advanced Security, that gives us our pre and post deployment aspects. So things like secret scanning, dependency analysis, code scanning. And, you know, think of that from the perspective of the secret and code scanning as an example, allows us to continue that security aspect even when our application is deployed. We may deploy our application, it's in use, our infrastructure is being used for a number of months, and that code scanning may identify a vulnerability even from code that's already in production. So it just gives us that overview really of all of the options.
Because for the code scanning, you can always use the GitHub code QL to scan your code as well. So I just want to point that out.
No, it's really useful. Thank you. Yeah, and obviously in terms of secure access to Azure, in our example, you know, managed identity allows you to securely access resources that support the Azure AD or Entra ID authentication from that perspective as well. So, you know, bringing this all together does give you a very, very secure approach to that deployment lifecycle. Nick?
So we want to just give you the key benefits of the combined approach. So the reason that you can use both managed identity and GitHub Advanced Security for Azure DevOps is that it can provide a secure and faster deployment by caching secrets before they reach your production or reach in a pipeline, and by using different kind of like code secrets, secret scanning, vulnerability protection. So you can also use it with your existing projects, Azure DevOps project or repo as well. So you can integrate that. You can also have it integrated with Defender for Cloud in Azure. In Azure, so you can see with a list of repos, whether it's a GitHub repo or Azure DevOps repo, you can see those things as well. And it allows you to have a secure storage of deployment. So it give you a safe place to track your code and stuff as well by using those. So one of the main aspects is that you can use managed identity to reduce your risk, whether by setting some policies for setting permission, access control, whether it's using RBAC and control. Then you can also use it to improve your. You can also use it to, in conjunction with service principal, you can use managed identity and source service principal in Azure DevOps.
Thanks, Nick. So yeah, just some top tips and recommendations. Do you want to take the first couple, Nick?
Yeah, so we want to just give you some like top tips recommendation, like Jack said. So we always want to ensure that you make use of managed identity in Azure DevOps and GitHub Advanced Security for Azure DevOps. As well, you can also use the GitHub Advanced Security for GitHub, because we can use it for, if you have Azure repo, you can use it for Azure DevOps. And you can use those in order to have more of a security posture on your code, just to track your vulnerability in your code as well. So you can use it for like a tool in Azure DevOps called Storage BuseGet extension. So you can use that to point up with, like, you can use it in conjunction with your GitHub Copilot to help you track code as well in your vulnerability. So that's quite a handy tool to use. And one of my next important thing is that you want, after you cache the code and stuff, you want to gradually improve and review your workflow, your pipeline to ensure it meets your security review that for your company. So whether it's your security personnel want to help to track it and stuff, you want to make sure they're satisfied with the changes, and always use MFA as possible. So try to always enforce security as well as MFA.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Nick. And I suppose also just coming on to the last two, least privilege. I know least privilege is something that's talked about, as a bit of a always do it, but it is really important in that development life cycle. So, considering what is the minimum permission I can assign, and hopefully this presentation has just given a bit of a view that those managed identities do help enable that, rather than us having to create lots of different methods of access or ways that certain security elements can be met. You now have the ability to create those, have them centrally managed, automate things like the credential rotation, and we can truly get to that least privilege position. From the perspective of deployment as well, I think it's important to call out that using least privilege really helps us limit blast radius. If we have a vulnerability, a breach, a problem, and let's say we're doing a deployment to Azure and we've granted some sort of access to an entire subscription, that would be a bad day in terms of if something got leaked and it granted access to that. But if we had something where we were using a managed identity and it was a single resource or resource group, obviously we're limiting that privilege quite significantly. Perhaps the last tip really we've thought about here, and by no means last but by no means least, really is test and test again. So get a second opinion. Have somebody else look at it. Consider and test different approaches. There's in the IT world, there's often lots of different ways we can approach the same problems and lots of different methods we can use. So just considering how those may change your approach and your security posture is well worth doing, even if it's just a consideration. It's better than not thinking about it at all. So a few things on getting started. I'll just cover off the first few here. So obviously, step one, you do need to register for the preview. You can do that at aka.ms/advanced-security-sign-up. So go there, sign up first. Use our resources slide. I will share. I'll go through a few of those on a browser in a second. And just think about those top tips and recommendations. Once you are getting started. Nick?
Yeah, so once you've registered, you will get notified from GitHub and personal, and then they will assess whether you're applicable for the preview, and then you can provide feedback and share with the wider Microsoft teams and stuff, or community. And you can also, I would recommend testing in production test it in dev environment before and not in production, just to make sure the tool is what you're looking after. And to get GitHub Advanced Security is quite straightforward, but it's just a tick box you need to enable on Azure DevOps, as well as one of the another tick box as well to enable that you disable push for code, cache push for code. Yeah, and then there's a link for signing up at bottom as well for GitHub Defender for Cloud sign up. want to get started.
Thanks, Nick. Just a couple of thoughts on conclusions and next steps as well. So obviously we've talked about GitHub Advanced Security and Managed Identities as a combination here. So using them as a combination, Managed Identities, Advanced Security of DevOps is a great way to secure your development and deployment process. Bringing those two methods together does remove a number of common pitfalls and issues, and allows you to focus on the most important aspects. That's your applications, your deployments, your development, all of that sort of stuff. Obviously, bringing those two elements together, so there's a number of key benefits. So thinking about GitHub Advanced Security, obviously we've talked about code scanning, identifying those vulnerabilities. We've talked about secret scanning, identifying if a push is going to expose a secret or we've committed something that shouldn't be there. Also the dependency analysis, understanding if a particular pull request may break something or cause us problems down the line.
So for the managed identity, you can use it to secure your Azure resources without having to use the old PAT token, personal access token, because that, like what Jake says, is assigned to the user. And for the managed identity, it will assign to the app, which is more safer and you just need to assign the correct permission to it to privilege at least permissions. And then it's also credential rotation, so you can also set it to rotate when expired as well, so less management overhead for yourself, for your team.
Thanks, Nick. That's everything from us. So hopefully this has been a useful introduction. I'll pause just for a second on the resources slide, and then in a second I will just share my screen. But yeah, I hope this has been useful. Thank you for watching, and look out for more on these subjects from Nick and myself soon. Just a quick overview of some of the resources we shared. So this is the Microsoft build session, so the Ship It Safely with GitHub Advanced Security. Brilliant session, absolutely worth a watch, covers lots of information, a deep dive into that tooling as well. So if this is an area of interest, I'd absolutely recommend watching that. An article on actually configuring GitHub Advanced Security for Azure DevOps. So this will take you through the prereqs, enabling it, setting it up. This is a great place to get started. Great article here from Angel Wong, just introducing service principal and managed identity support on Azure DevOps. Again, a really good read, just to give some background on that, service principal and managed identities. Using Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, sorry, Entra ID, with these managed identities. Again, more information here. We briefly touched on this, but there's some great videos on this page as well, on this link. And obviously an overview here from GitHub Advanced Security within Azure DevOps. So again, well worth a read just to get some more of that background information. I'll just stop my screen. That's everything for us. So thank you for watching. Enjoy all the videos for Azure Back to School, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.